Hi there, and welcome back to this week's trade recap. Once again, I'm here to show the trades that I took this week. January has been a really slow month. Nothing special been popping out. In the past week we had a good trade that we talk about, but I still think January is being weak. For the whole week, we've been bullish because we were holding the 4-hour BPR here on the left, and on the first days of the week we had a new week opening gap as a target. So zooming in on the 5-minute, on Tuesday we had this as a daily target, and we had this 5-minute fair value gap that was holding us down. And when I saw this forming, I said to myself that if it inverted with momentum, I would take it. But it never did. It took a while for it to get inversed, and we formed this trend line liquidity below, which made any trade to the upside not the best. Our bias was bullish, but because we still have liquidity below, this can't be as good as it could be. So still, zooming in on the 1-minute, right at open, we had this 1-minute that ain't the best, but because we were still inside this 5-minute CB and we didn't swept the liquidity below, we have an external and internal range liquidity problem. We are still inside the 5-minute and we are generating a setup that we will be entering before the 5-minute external range liquidity gets inversed. So this can't be the best. But when we see this type of momentum, we can understand that, okay, maybe there's something here. And the thing that I failed to recognize is that right here we have triple equal highs. They're together, so they are not the best, but this could have been a tentative of a setup. And when I understood that we had these triple equal highs and we had a momentum, it was too late for me. This was the entry. This would be a quick break even, and we would be targeting these highs. This would be a really good trade in terms of risk to reward. And this trade didn't tap the break even. We went a little bit above this break even zone, went down, almost ticked us out of the trade, and then went to the full target. Now, as I said, I didn't take this trade, but I think it is a nice thing to mention, having in mind that this week we didn't have a lot of setups and we had a bank holiday on Monday. I think showing these setups is important for future terms. Heading on to Wednesday, once again, we swept sell side and we went right back above it. And when we saw this kind of momentum going past this 15-minute fair value gap, making this an inversion, well, because our bias is above and we already swept sell side liquidity, this is kind of easy to make us a bias and a draw one liquidity. We swept sell side, we have new week opening gap above, and we inversed this big 15 minutes with a lot of momentum. This kind of looks bullish. Zooming in on the 5-minute, we see that we swept this buy side liquidity and we didn't displace above it. The dream scenario here would be for us to displace above this high, making this a market structure shift, having some sort of change in the state of delivery on the higher time frame for us to have a lot of confidence in longing. But it didn't. It didn't displace above this high. So when we are still bullish and we see that we didn't displace above the high, normally what the market does is it rebalances to equilibrium, makes some sort of intermediate term low, and then goes up again. And that's exactly what happened. We respected the 15-minute, we respected to the tick almost this 5-minute, we swept this low, making this an intermediate term low, and zooming in on the 1-minute, we see this setup where once again we sweep the sell side liquidity, we go above it with a really decent momentum, and we target the buy side. Now, this may not be the best because Trump was speaking, and price action when Trump was speaking tends not to be the best. As you can see, this isn't the clearest price action. I already was looking for a setup in this zone, and seeing this signature in price to me is a clear long, because this would be a clear break-even. This will be a really clear break-even zone. We have low resistance liquidity, and it looks like a really decent setup. It was a quick 1-to-1 R for me. I could have waited a little bit longer because we were bullish anyway, and we have this high right here, which is the start of this hourly. But because I was only confident in this low hanging fruit, and because Trump was speaking, it didn't even cross my mind letting the trade run more. I was in this with only 2 micros, and if I take just 1 micro in this high and leave the other one to this high, I will only take a 50% scalp. And on this high, I don't want to be taking just a 50% scalp. I want to be taking a 75%, 80%, 90%, not just half the position. Heading on to Thursday, we have a lot of unfilled 15-minute and 1 hour fair value gaps on the left, and I didn't know if we would be targeting all of them. My dream scenario would be for us to tap them, respect this BPR, and then go up, and that's exactly what happened. And zooming in on the 1 minute, my bias overall was bullish, and when we took this buy side, I thought, okay, the market is going to go without us. But below here, we have this really good looking trendline liquidity. And if we check WeHas, the trendline liquidity right there is even clearer. Happily for us, we have a setup right here. We still have not tapped all these fair value gaps below that were still unmitigated, but we just swept sell side liquidity. We're still delivering from some 15-minute fair value gaps, and our bias is bullish. So a setup like the one we're seeing right now is really good. We have a manipulation leg even, and we have momentum going through this high. Now, if you already know the model that I trade, usually I go break even when we take the first swing high on the left. But on this trade, which is going to be something that I can't really show because we are not on lifetime, but if you were looking at the market in lifetime, you saw that this 30-second candle and 1 minute candle went up with a lot of momentum. And when we were going with such a velocity and we went so close to this high, I thought to myself, okay, we still have liquidity below, so the market could still go lower. And with this momentum to the upside, and we are so close to the swing high, it doesn't make sense for us to lose this momentum and go down. If we go down with this momentum, this trade may be a loss. So I went break even on my trade, and it ended up being a break even that really saved me. And on the rest of the day, that wasn't really something decent that I would like to share. And just to explain what happened today on Friday, we had conflicting draws. Here on a 5 minute, we have this relatively equal lows, but if we check the S&P 500, we have an SMT with this low, which makes the market somewhat bullish. And we also had this on the left side. We still have liquidity above. So we have liquidity below, liquidity above, and we are not on the best range. So right at the open, we swept this high inside the fair value gap, which makes this a rejection block. But none of these trades were really the best because we had an SMT below. So the market should go up, but at the same time it should go down, which makes this bad price action. We inversed these fair value gaps, which could be a good trade, and it will be a break even because the market just started chopping. It started presenting setups to the downside, setups to the upside. We had this 30-second to the upside, which ended up working for the 1 hour. But because here on a 5 minute, we still hadn't swept a sell side, this was still a rejection block. So because we only swept sell sides on the 1 minute, I don't think this would be a good trade because we are longing inside a rejection block. And usually when we eventually take a rejection block, the market just explodes up, but we didn't retrace inside this range for us to have a setup to the upside. So there was nothing for me on Friday. And that's really all for me this week. I had one win and one break even, and I'll see what January is waiting for us at the last week of the month. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Bye bye.